Hello everyone, happy Gandhi Jayanti. My name is Joshua and this is Rooftop. In today's workshop, we're going to be creating a Warli painting. But as today is Gandhi Jayanti, and in honor of Mahatma Gandhi, we'll be creating the Dandi March in the Warli style. Now for this workshop, I already have a drawing where the image we can take reference from. So let's learn a little bit more about the Warli style as well while we are doing this. So as you can see here, I have created a Warli style painting of the Dandi March. This is so if you look at the style, it's very simplistic, It's a very old drawing that has been there for thousands of years. Now this Warli style, as I said, it's a very simplistic style. When you look at the bodies also here, you can see it is very triangular, the upper body or the torso, and then even the lower half, and even if you have a look at the trees and the clouds as well, they are very simplistic. This style has basically captures the daily life of the villages. So before we start the main workshop, I will just show you some of the motifs that the Warli style has to offer. Okay. So if we look at the drawings when it comes to people, it starts off with very simple images. Yeah. It starts off with a very basic circle like this. And then for the body, we draw a triangle. And for the lower half, we draw another triangle here. And then the arms are very linear, like that. And then if we look at the women also, they have a bun type shape beside the circle. And let's say if they're doing something like this, like that. That's how the style would go. And then even if we look at the trees as well, now for example, here we can have tree here, and from the center we start to draw it like a dandelion, like that. And then this comes out, one extends, and here we have, you could say, like a long leaf. That. And you can even add some smaller plants below it. And then if I were to draw another style, it would be this. And then we have these extensions from here. Take this a little lower. Now we will have this tree extrude from the corners or from the tip over here. Like that. Then here also at the bottom we can add a little bit there. Then if we look at, say, the houses, these are also done in a very simplistic style. So back then there were huts rather than houses. So there are drawings which resemble the architecture of that time. So if we see, and have some horizontal lines. Some vertical lines here. Can extend this down. Maybe a little overextend this. And whenever there's a house, we can always see what's happening inside of the house. So for example, here, you can see that there's a person sitting here. And there's another person sitting here as well. Like that. So whatever is drawn, it is a very two-dimensional drawing. And then even say for the birds or the animals, if I were to draw, say, a bird, I would draw it like this. And from here also, you can draw the feathers with lines. And that's how they would draw their birds. So we can take a little bit of knowledge from this and we can start with our main drawing. So over here I am using origami paper. Let me just zoom in a bit. Yeah, that should be good. All right. So now The as we've seen, the features of this painting, they have a lot of circles, a lot of triangles, and squares to depict elements of nature or animals, trees, or you could say village scenes as well. And each and every uh, element or each and every motif a person is always shown doing some sort of activity or the other. It could be farming, it could be hunting, it could be maybe dancing or worshipping as well. So Wadley art revolves around that kind of a theme. Okay. So now we can start with our drawing. Now, now our theme is Gandhi's Dandi March, right? And we're doing it in a Wadley style. So what I can do here is, now one thing, if you want to show, like a main figure in Wadley art, we can draw that figure relatively bigger than the rest. So for example, I will draw a circle here for the head, a triangle for the torso, maybe something like this here, and this there. And then here we can draw a stick. So here I can have Gandhi as the main focus of this drawing, and then in the background I can start adding the other elements as well. I can draw a house here. So now this drawing that I am making is, you could say, an amalgamation of different real life of real life images of the Dandi March, which I put together and composed it in my own way in a Warli style art. So I've taken an image where you can see people walking together with houses at the back or trees at the back. And one of the main reasons why I feel like this style is best suited for the Dandi March is because the style picks up, on daily events. But when these drawings are done, it was based off of people doing, their regular activities or maybe certain events. So as I previously said, there's always something or the other happening in the house. So I can draw a tiny circle here, small triangle like this. Maybe there's someone sitting at the back, like that. Now outside of the house, I can draw a fence. So I'll draw two parallel lines, and then we'll start by drawing more vertical lines in them. And the same thing with this side also. Like that. So it'll be sort of like a fence for the house. Then over here, I can draw a tree. Same thing here. And sticking out from the back side of the house as well. And for the tree, I'll just make it, V shape. So for the tree over here, what I'm going to do is, I'll draw a line like this. Now at the edge, I will add these two lines, and then I'll just start drawing V shapes this way. So now if you have a look at this view, if you look at this area, hold on. Yeah. If you look at this area over here, this entire shelf is done in Warli style decorative. So we've taken motifs and we've put them on the shelf over here. So the trees which I was showing you just now, we have those two different trees on our shelf. Okay, coming back. Okay. Now if you look at this over here, viewing the background. We'll start with the back or with the top part, and then we'll start building it downwards. I will do this tree over here. Maybe another one sticking from the back like that. And then I can draw clouds as well. So the clouds will be very rounded and very literal. And then we'll add some dots to it, which in Warli style is a representation of, you could say, rain. Well, it may not be raining, but the water comes from the clouds. So they put these dots in them as well. Okay, and then here also we'll add these dots. So right now the marker I am using is your normal permanent marker or your CD marker that we used to get. I'm using the fine tip one of that. But if you want to use a, let's say, slightly thicker marker, then you can do it on a much bigger sized paper, because the lines will be a little thicker, so it will occupy more space. Like say if I did it with this marker, let me show you the difference in the tip. So if you look at the difference in the tip, it's massive. So if I was using this, I would probably use a paper 3 times bigger than this. For this you can do it on origami paper, or you can even do it on any sort of colored paper. But if you want to make it more interesting, you can have a darker colored paper and a white pen. So you can have that dark and light contrast instead of having a white background or a light background every time. Okay. Now I can start drawing Maybe I can add some trees here. So I'll add some small rocks. You can have them rectangular as well. And then we can add maybe a path like this. And we can add some dots here. Just like that. Now, between these rocks, we'll start drawing some trees. So I know I've shown only two, but over here we'll be doing maybe 2-3 variations of the trees. Over here. Now these drawings used to be done on pottery or on some type of paper as well. Here I will extend these. And then we can add some leaves here. I can extend this branch as well and have some smaller leaves sticking out of it also. Take this a little higher. And have one here as well. Like that. So what is the story behind? Okay. So Warli art, it's basically a traditional tribal art which originated from the Warli tribe in Maharashtra. So for those of you in Mumbai, you can go and see the village as well, because it is located in places like Danu. So over there you'll see a couple of villages where this art has originated from. Now this style has a very simplistic, a very two-dimensional style to it. 1 second. Okay. Yeah. So the art form has a lot of circles and triangles and other shapes to it as well when it comes to their motifs and how they are drawn. And they were typically created on mud walls, which were made out of rice paste or water for the white pigment. Like I said, if we have a darker paper, we can use white color, and if we have a lighter color, we can use, or a lighter paper, we can use a darker color here. Now, the Warli art style or the Warli paintings, they depict elements of nature or daily life, like animals or trees or village scenes. I hope that answers your question. Inside here we can see it's a bit empty, so I will just very roughly add one person here also, and then we can maybe add like a small bed. Okay, now over here I can add another house for the roof. Let's call them huts, so that you can understand that the reason why I'm drawing it this way is because of the houses and how they were made at that time rather than how we have the houses right now. That time meaning not during the Dandi March, but during the era of this painting. Okay, now I can start adding some people also. So I can make a small field over here around Gandhiji. Even when I'm drawing this field, I'm making it very linear and I'm just using lines to depict. Okay, and then we can start adding everyone who had marched with Gandhi in the back. Again, circle for the head, an upside down triangle for the torso, then another triangle for the lower body. And you will never see two people overlap each other in this style of painting. Everyone is separate and has their own space. Oh, I forgot to complete this house. And for the legs, we make it very linear. Those of you who are there or who are living in Mumbai or Pune, if you'll ever think about, visiting the north side or towards the Dahanu or Palghar district, you can always, Google and see where these villages are, and you can go and visit them, see the lifestyle, see the art that they have. Because I had gone there once, while it was not for the Warli painting necessarily, but I've seen the village that side, and it is quite literally like this drawing itself. It was a wonderful experience. Like I could see the trees over there and understand why they do their trees in this manner also. So when you visit such villages, you can understand where the style is derived from, or from where the elements that they get, how they simplified their surroundings and the people, and they created this art form. Over here. Now, when you want to draw the women in Warli style, we'll draw a circle for the head, and then a smaller circle attached to the head on the side, either left or right. It will show the direction of the head, and it will show the hair also, or the bun. About there. Then we can have one more over here. So this painting is, as we know, today is Gandhi Jayanti. So in remembrance of Mahatma Gandhi, we are drawing the Dandi March in the Warli style. Over here. Now see, now when we look at people in real life, right? So say if there is someone, no, I'm not drawing in the Warli style, I'm just giving an example. Now say if there is someone, let's draw this very roughly. If there is someone here, and we want to draw someone behind this said person, we would have to draw it in this manner where a bit of the body is being hidden, right? Like this. But in the Warli style, if I want to draw these three people the same way, it would be, now I won't fill it in so that you can see the drawing clearly. It would be like this. Sorry, I'll keep this straight. So everyone has their own space that they are in. We do not, overlap anyone when it comes to the Warli style. So now, the Dandi March, if you see, there was a big crowd of people, marching forth, and it would be, sort of like this. But in the Warli style, we will be drawing them separately. Okay, so now getting back to this drawing, if you want, you can paint this as well. It doesn't have to be with markers, but if you already do end up using paints, just make sure that the paper you're using can handle the paint. We do not want, all your efforts to go into vain just because the paper can't absorb the paint or water properly. Now this is your normal origami sheet. If you look at this, it is passing through. But since I'm using a marker, it is okay. But if I used paint, this entire paper would have just crumpled up by now. I hope the visibility is good, because I've been trying to make some changes with the setup. I hope the camera quality has gotten better. Or if you prefer the previous setup, you can go back to that as well. And to those of you who are new, welcome. We do workshops every day. We have 2 workshops every day where each of them are unique from each other. And if you're interested in such workshops, you can subscribe or drop a comment as well. So here, let's make it as if, you know, they're moving in agreement with each other. Over here also. And have someone, could say, kneeling down there. Then maybe someone paying their respects as well. Now, the style of painting or the simplicity, I feel that they couldn't have done it any better. Now, why do I say that? So, if we look at the style of drawing, it uses some simple shapes to, depict a person. Now, when we draw, say, in our modern paintings, in realism, let's say we have a head here, and I will very roughly draw this body like this here, and then the arm as well. So now this is simplified in such a way that it is very easy to, pick up proportions. Now, say if I want to draw a person, I can use these proportions itself. I'll draw this very roughly. I can get the measurements for the body very easily. See, and this arm also, if I take this, bring this here, just do a few minor adjustments, and we would get the body also. I really like the way they simplified it, on the style that they have come up with. I feel like it couldn't have been done any better. It's the best as it is right now. Here as well. You can add a few more people below. Then you can add feet to them as well, like this. Could this be considered as doodling? I wouldn't say so. Doodling is entirely different, whereas this is an art style in its own. So this is basically, let me think of the right term. Now, if we want to draw something, we would, let me just take another sheet. So now let's say I want to draw a cupboard that I see. So I would have this cupboard here like this. We have the doors, and then we have the handles, and then maybe a lock also. This is how we would draw it, right? But now at that time, art wasn't as such that, where right now we have art education where we can study, we can learn different techniques, or we can take different approaches by other countries and, make it our own and draw. Back then, they had to come up with a visual representation of their own. So I wouldn't call it a drawing or an art of their own. At that time, they needed something to visually represent what they did back then. And that's where the Warli art style comes. So if I were to draw this modern cupboard into the Warli art style, I would just draw it maybe like this. As a shelf like that. So it was something where they didn't have a background in, you know, art education or modern art, and they had to come up with a style of their own. And that's where all of this comes. If I want to draw, say, a house, and it also depends on how, what do you say, the lifestyle that they had. So if you go to see, this would be, I'm drawing a very normal house right now. I'm not gonna add anything fancy to it. This is a house, right? Maybe over here we have a fence like this. Which then wraps up in the front also, like that. But back then their houses, they had huts. So they needed a way to draw the huts. And if you see the huts, they're made out of leaves when it comes to the shed. So it's impossible to draw each and every, you know, leaf that is there on top. And they used wood as well as a foundation. So in order to create this roof, now over here we have maybe tiles or something on the other over here for the roof. But back then they had trees or they had leaves. So instead of drawing each and every leaf, what they did was they simplified those leaves and they made this crisscross shape to show that yes, we had something that we kept on top over here, and we kept it in this way and in a horizontal way as well. And the houses were, based on the drawings at least, they were very open. So you can even see the interior of the houses. Here we have a bed. maybe here we have a person standing like that. So this art style was based on the lifestyle and the knowledge that they had when they initially came up with it. So I wouldn't call it doodling, I would call it a visual representation of the life that they used to live. I hope that answers your question. Now, even for the people, if we see, they're using very basic triangles. If you look at artists now, when they try to come up with their own style, they'll go through a lot of trial and error, see what works, see whether this color is good or this art style is good. But back then, I can't say whether they experimented and checked which style is good, but I feel like they did what was most comfortable for them and was, you could say, relatively easy to draw with. You can have one there, you can have another person here. We can draw the excuse me. We can draw the feet as well. And then over here, now see, Danu area, it's a very grassy field, or it's a very relatively dense foresty area, you could say. So they had a lot of grass down. Now it's impossible to draw each and every strand of grass. Even in modern times, artists tend to avoid it. So they, what the Warli artists did is they drew these small lines to show that there was grass in these areas. Now think about it this way. We are doing we are painting right now the Dandi March, right? And if some context is given, you can understand that, oh, okay, this is Mahatma Gandhi ji, and then these are the people around him, and everyone is gathering together. But that is after some context is given. Now, if you look at the original paintings of the Warli style, we can only imagine how simplified it has been drawn, that while we may have an idea of what it is trying to show, we can never truly, understand or see what exactly it was that happened. All we have is the simplified version or the simplified representation of these events that happened back then. Which is why I said, if you are in Bombay or in Mumbai and you'll happen to pass towards the Virat side, you should have a look at, the village where this art style is derived from. You'll then have an idea of, the lifestyle, how they came up with the style, what kind of environment they were in, the type of village that they have, the type of huts, and they still have huts over there. Well, I'm sure some of those areas have, been urbanized, but the villages still exist also. And then over here at the top, you can add another cloud, but this time there won't be any outline. You'll only be using dots. Like that. We have a bit of area over here. What I can do is I can add maybe some more trees as well. Over here also we can add this here. And then we can have a person at the back following Gandhiji. Like that. So I hope you learned something informative with this Warli art style. I can take this a bit closer so that you can see how I've done it. I've filled in the triangles with vertical lines and I've kept some gap in it because this style of painting doesn't always have the body entirely filled, like this area here or this area here. You can have a look at the trees also and how they are drawn. And for the grass, if you see, I have just drawn small lines to represent them. I think one thing we can get or we can understand from the Warli style is that art, no matter it being Warli or super or hyperrealism or abstract or contemporary, it is a representation of something or another. It has some meaning behind it. And I think that's one of the best lessons we can learn from the Warli art style. So if you enjoyed the workshop, I hope you join us back again at 5:30 for another workshop that we will be having. I'd like to thank everyone that has joined me for this workshop. And if you have learned something interesting, you can drop a like or maybe even comment what you enjoyed or like or learn about this workshop. Now, that's all for today. I hope you enjoy your holidays and I will see you back again in the evening. Thank you.